oil all over the place. We had to get those demons out of there. So thank you, Dr. Mack. You need to come back. We'll schedule it. We need some more. We'll go to Sam's. We need a big, it's time. So this convention, under the leadership of Dr. Mack, under the leadership of Dr. Simmons and Dr. Ficklin and Reverend Dr. Stanley, thank you all for your support to our community. That means a lot. And with you all in the community, both locally here in Macon and abroad within this state, we are, what did you just say? We're better together? Better together. All right, we are better together. Thank you, sir. We know that the Lord can heal the blind, or at least, Jesus did, and I'm trying. At least he can work with me a little bit today. We're going to see. We're going to see, but we got him just in case. So I would like to share with you all the most impactful project of my career, the Enslaved People Project. This project started back in 2013 when I was elected. Well, the project didn't start, but back in 2013 when I was elected, one day I was up in the mezzanine of the courthouse in the vault, and I see my godparents, Dr. Glover and Dr. Glover. I was in the vault, and I went to the mezzanine, and I looked, and I found these gigantic deed books. So the Clerk of Superior Court is the official record keeper of the county. We have 159 counties in the state of Georgia, and we have 159 elected clerks. So we are elected to preserve and protect court records, land records, and anything else within our jurisdiction. And so as clerk of court, that is what I'm supposed to do. So I was in the mezzanine area in the vault in the courthouse, pulled down one of these gigantic deed books. I'm sorry, I was supposed to start my timer. I'm trying to be diligent here. Okay, I pulled down one of the deed books. I opened the deed book. It was one of the early deed books. It was dusty. It was very, very dusty. It was supposed to be white, but it was tan. I opened this book and I saw some land being sold. I flipped the page and I saw a building being sold. I flipped the page and I saw that Elijah Wells was selling to Alexander Bryan the following Negro girl: Harriet, age 11, fair complexion, long hair, warranted to be sound and well for $225. And I was blown away. If I had hair on the back of my neck, it would have stood. I mean, can you imagine finding primary source, original documentation of slavery? Especially in a time like these where we have disinformation, misinformation, uninformation, that's not a word, but trying to erase history out of the history books, trying to not teach our young people about the true history of the world, not only this country, but the true history of the world, that black people were taken from Africa, from the various countries, and sold all over the world. And so we had that evidence right here in Macon, Georgia, in the deed books. And so what did I do with those records? Well, the first thing I did, I contacted the Chief Deputy Clerk, Stephanie Miller, who works in my office, and I had to share with her what I found. It's like, you cannot believe what I just saw in these records. And she was equally amazed, astounded, stupefied, and whatever other words you can think of. And so, it's a very nerve-wracking experience when you find something like this. It's almost like, I would liken it to maybe, I don't know, finding $1 million somewhere, like in cash. Like, what do I do with this treasure? Do I tell the world that I have it? Will somebody try to come take it? What do I do with this information? And so fast forward, I was telling one of my dear friends about the project. Let's see, here we go. Dr. Chester Fontenot. And as you can see on the slide, Dr. Fontenot is holding one of those big deed books, one of the 17 volumes that contain records of slavery. And so I contacted him. He's a professor at Mercer University, just retired from the Africana Studies Department. And, we talked about the records. He had some ideas, I had some ideas. And what he helped me do from an education standpoint, because he's a professor, so he helped us to come up with a methodology to document this information. And so what we did was we came up with a plan. And part of that plan was, again, to read through every book, all of the, from cover to cover, and to, document what we have in those records. And so what we did is we created a dream team. And on that team, we had the clerk's office team. We had some folks from Mercer, Dr. Fontenot. We had a few reference librarians, and we also had students. Because what good is it to have a project like this and not involve students, young people, who can also share this information with others? So we hired the students in the clerk's office. First, they had some grant funds. Then we hired them. They read cover to cover each and every book. And, again, these are deed books. And each of those giant books, you see some in the picture on the back there. Each of these books have about 1,000 pages in each book. So can you imagine looking through cursive, and you can see an example of the cursive up there. Looking through these records, trying to read that, to see which record was one that contained the cell of a human in it. So we taught the students how to read cursive. Anybody in here know how to read cursive? Anybody's grandchildren know how to read cursive? Maybe 2 good saints have taught their grandchildren cursive. But, taught them cursive, and we documented. And from reading, and we also got volunteers in the community to help with the project. And so from reading all these books from cover to cover, Mrs. Mack, good to see you, we found about 1,000 property deeds that sold humans as slaves. And these records, they contain anywhere from 1/2 interest in a Negro man named John, 1/2, to hundreds of humans. And so just imagine seeing this written and captured in our office. And so we cataloged everything that we saw. And what else did we do, Dr. Matt? Do you know? Okay. And so what we did was, after we got that information of all the property deeds that actually sold humans, we digitized those documents. So that's the clerk's office project, the Enslaved People project, where we could actually get these 1,000 deeds, scan them in, and provide those to the public for free. So we have a website out now that's live, that you can actually go online and you can read these records. You can see these records for free. Now, one thing that maybe I didn't say is, sometimes it's challenging to do projects like this. You have to have a lot of community support, but sometimes you do, and sometimes you just have to be a renegade and do what you want to do, right? So I'm just going to sidebar for a minute. This is why elections matter. This is why elections matter. I know that we have separation of church and state, but I'm not a preacher, so I'm going to tell the people, you need to vote. You need to vote early, and you need to vote often, okay? Because projects like this are only important to who they are important to. The first clerk of court is noted in these books as owning slaves. And the first black clerk of court found the slaves in these books. Okay, so again, elections matter. And so what we did, we created a living, breathing website for these documents so that the public can actually see the records. And at this time, we have historians from all over the world contacting us. We have genealogists contacting us. And it's really amazing because you can possibly use these records to trace your history. And, you know, this project is called the Enslaved People Project, just so that we can show the humanity to the people who were enslaved. We can show them respect. They're not just slaves. That was a label. That was a name that someone else gave them. But they were actually human beings, kings, queens, chiefs of tribes who were kidnapped, stolen, took a long voyage across the ocean, and were sold. So again, it's the Enslaved People Project, so just be mindful that, you know, we don't want to call these people slaves. They were people first. And what's great is that we are still here. We are the descendants of the survivors, those who made the long journey, those who endured the rapes, the beatings, the abuse, the felonious treatment, those who were ripped away from their families. And so let's just be thankful that we're here today. Another thing that this project highlights or brings light to is urban slavery here in Middle Georgia. So a lot of times we hear about slavery, we may have learned of slavery and we think of enslaved people in the fields picking cotton, right? But Macon was a commercial hub. Macon is right in the middle of Georgia. We have the Ocmulgee River. We have, you know, at that time they were building railroads and infrastructure. So, you know, people came from all over to Macon to purchase, well, to sell goods and to purchase goods. So what urban slavery looked like here in Macon is not enslaved people in fields picking cotton, but enslaved people working in the cotton gin, working in different mills and manufacturing. Enslaved people being leased by the railroad, and we have some of those records as well that show that the railroads either owned slaves or leased humans, okay, to do the work. We also have records where the city of Macon purchased 8 humans at one point. They got $10,000 granted by the commission or by the city council. And they purchased humans to do road work and other infrastructure. So this project also sheds light on urban slavery. And really, I could sit here and talk to you all day about the different types of slavery and everything that, you know, happened here in Macon, which is also a reflection of what happened, again, in the state of Georgia and across the world. So with this project, which was a 10-year labor of love, we actually started digitizing the records, I want to say back in 2018. So we got the grants, we got the students to look at the records and document. So after the documentation was the digitization, we digitized all of our records, and then we separated those records of slavery, put them on this platform, and it is a searchable platform. It is kind of like Google. Like, you can type in a word, and then you can, you know, see what records we have that reveal that word. So whether the word is Harriet, all the records that contain a Harriet are shown, whether it's, you know, whatever word you type in, that's what you will find. And again, this is free. This is a free website, so it's free to see, but you have to pay to play. If you want to print, you got to pay us that good old 50 cents. That's what the statute says. I need 50 cents per page. Okay, but you can see for free. And just another sidebar, what's also unique about this project is that it is the only one of its kind, I would say, in the world. I know it's the only one of its kind in the state of Georgia because I'm the only clerk of court doing the project. But I say it's the only project like this in the world where You have the actual record custodian. The record keeper is sharing with the public for free records of slavery. So not some library that got records from somewhere else, but the actual record keeper where these deeds were filed. So in order to look at the records, you go on the website, and I'll show you that website, but you start with a name. First name, last name, whatever name you want to put in and search, and then those records will pull up. So all the deeds will show with that. There is a method to the madness, however. So for example, if the name is Smith and it's a common name, you know, you might need to narrow down your search. Or if it's Kitchens with the I-K-I-T-C-H-I-N-S, it might be spelled kitchen like your kitchen sink. It might have an S on the end or not. So sometimes you have to modify your search so that you can get those results. This is sort of what the website looks like. So again, it's a simple search. You can search the buyers, the sellers, complexion. A lot of the records have, like Harriet, fair complexion, copper complexion, dark complexion. Nothing like a dark chocolate man. Different ministry. Different ministry. I'm gonna move on to the next. I'm gonna move on. Okay. All right. You know, he's still working on me. Okay. Still working. Okay. All right. So again, you can narrow the search. This is how it looks once you type in a name and the results populate. You can see, let's see, you see the names there. You see Party 1, Carolyn or Caroline. Underneath there's Moses and Mariah. Those are the enslaved people. So we wanted to focus on those folks first instead of focusing on the buyer or seller. So Party 1 is always the person who was enslaved. Then Party 2 lists the buyer, the seller, the notary, the witness, so everyone else involved. And then there's a property description or description, like you see here, $39 for a Negro named Carolyn, about 15 years of age. And then below that you see $2,150 for 8 Negroes: Moses, Mariah, Hannah, Abraham, Mary Ann, Nancy, Simon, and Richard. So to select a record, you just click the little magnifying glass, and you probably can't see the magnifying glass up there, but once you get on the website, you can see it. You click the magnifying glass, and then an image actually displays, and you can see, you know, the actual record or a digital image of the record. So once you click the magnifying glass, you will be able to actually view the record. And you can select which one you want to print, especially if you have that 50 cents per page. You'll see on the side, gosh, I hate that you can't see that. On the side where it says record in the white, on the, what side is that? The right side. It tells you what the record is. It says index type, slave records, kind description, human only, because we have some records that have just a human being sold, and we have some that have human and non-human. So I'm selling Sally, and I'm selling a horse and a cart, okay? Or 1,000 acres, or, you know, whatever. The following Negroes in my possession: to wit, Lucinda, a woman about 38 years of age; Betsy, a girl about 18; Mariah, a girl about 16 years of age; Isabel, about 11; Frank, a boy 8 years of age; Euphren, 2 years old; Charity, a girl 16; Phoebe, a girl 6; Sack, a woman about 33 years of age; Oliver, a boy about 5 years of age; Joseph, a lad about 19 years of age; and Emmanuel, a boy about 3 years of age. What's so interesting to me is that a lot of these names of the enslaved people were like biblical names. I was searching today and I saw in Ezekiel, well, it was Ezekiel, not Ezekiel, but a lot of these names sort of have, biblical sounding names. And speaking of biblical, another sidebar, just last month, I had the opportunity to go to Accra, Ghana. And so I spent 10 days in Ghana. And on one of those days, I had the opportunity to go to Cape Coast Slave Castle. And at Cape Coast Castle, I got a chance to see the male slave dungeons, where they had about 1,000 slaves being housed. I saw the female slave dungeon, where they had 500 women and children. It was on the ocean, very beautiful scene. And then where the governor would reside up, in the top with the ocean view. On this side of the castle, there was a church where they would praise the Lord. And the church was located over the male slave dungeon. So can you imagine those hypocrites up there praying and praising? Wow, that's a different lecture for a different day. But that's what I saw. That's what I experienced. I saw where women would go if they refused to be raped. They would get beaten, and then they would be sent to another dungeon with small windows, and they would be left there for 10 days with no food and no water. And I saw the dungeon where the men who resisted would be sent. No windows, no air. After 3 days, they were gone. They were gone. But anyway, I digress. So, it's just amazing. And also just another story from Ghana. There were 3 graves there at the slave castle. One of those graves belonged to a black man named QP. And I forget what the Q stands for. It's like Quintarius or something. It was some, whatever his African name was. Quintarius Philip. Philip was his Christian name. He was the son of a king. And this king got along well with the slave traders. And so because Quintarius, and I'm just making up the name Quintarius, but it was a Q. Because Quintarius was so smart and could speak several languages, they sent Quintarius to England to become like a bishop in the church. So that he could then, and his Christian name was then Philip, hence QP, Quintarius Philip. So he could come back and he could preach to the enslaved, to the captured. It's always one of us, ain't it? I'm moving on. I'm moving. Okay, what I'd like to do is actually show you the website. So this is the actual web video source. Maybe. I'm not going to press any buttons or pull any cords. We're waiting on Bob. All right, Bob is coming. So my presentation is 45 minutes. I'm at minute 8 of my first 30. The last 15 I will reserve for question and answer. So be preparing your questions in your mind so that we can go over those questions. But what I'd like to do is show you the actual website and give you an example of how to search that site. And then afterwards, in the atrium level, there's an actual display book. So I brought a display book with me today. In this display book, it has a cross-section of those 17 volumes. So I selected between 4 and 5 deeds from each of the 17 volumes. And they're in that display book in the lobby. Some of the records are typed and some are in cursive. The type is our it's one of the original records, or at least a copy of the original, because as clerk of court, we always have to have a duplicate. So even back in 1823, we had those duplicates. So we had the cursive and we had the type text. So this is what the website landing page looks like. There are also flyers on the table in the lobby with the website, so that you can go and you can sign up and you can subscribe. I guess I can show you how to do that right quick. So I'm clicking sign up in the top right corner. You would enter your information and click that you're not a robot. And then you would search, you would click on Georgia, which is under Alabama, Connecticut, then Georgia, and then you would click on Bibb County. And that's how you would get to our page. So now I will log in. See at the top, maybe it says, you can't really see it, but it says prepaid balance 0 because you do not have to pay. I thought I turned off my Teams notifications. All right, so Bibb County is where I'm subscribed to, and I will search. You'll see Bibb County, Georgia, Clerk of Court's Office, Enslaved People Project records. So then you see the white box with the flashing cursor. What can we help you find? I just typed in Harriet. So all the records of Harriet have now come up. This could be a buyer, a seller, or an enslaved person. So I'll go back up to the top. The top line, there is a number 1, because that's the first result, a box. Next to the box is a magnifying glass. You click that magnifying glass so that you can view the record. But before I click the glass, I move over. It says scan pages 2, date 3/10/1830, type SLRE, human only. That's slave record, SLRE, human only. Party 1, Harriet. Next to that, you see Party 2, Elijah Wells of Bibb County. He's the seller. Alexander Bryan of Henry County is the buyer. Justice of Interior Court, David Ralston. He's the witness. Then you see the description. Amount $225. A certain Negro girl by the name of Harriet, age about 11 years of age, very light complexion, straight hair. So think about how painstaking it is, how much time it takes for the staff to actually read that cursive and then transcribe it. Then it says book and page C6, so it's indeed book C on page 6. I just click the magnifying glass. It takes a second to load, and so when it loads, you'll see the actual record. And I just like to, give it a little perspective. So $225 is how much Harriet was sold for in 1828. Today, that's $7,440.99. So then whatever records we have, so you see we have one in cursive and the one at the bottom is typed, which is easier to read. So this is just, an example of how you can do a search on our site. Let's see, is that my sweet baby cousin in the back? Hey, precious. Let's see him. He's an angel. I'm going to type in City of Macon. How many of you are from the Middle Georgia area of Macon, Warner Robins, Jones County? Okay. All right. How many of you are glad to be in Macon today? That should be everybody. All right, so I just typed in City of Macon. And let's see, this second entry is the one I'm interested in. I wish you could see it better, but it says it's the seventh entry. The date is 3/20/1834. Slave record human only. Then it lists the humans who were sold: Emmanuel, Peyton, Green, Armstead, Barry, Dave, Tony, and Sam. Who's the buyer? Robert Augustus Bill, Mayor and City Council of City of Macon. Address, Bibb County, City of Macon. And then it lists the sellers, and there are several sellers who sold those humans. And then on the side over here it says amount $10,000. By act of legislature and the state of Georgia, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to purchase 8 Negro men for the use of the city of Macon and to borrow $10,000 to purchase 8 slaves: Emmanuel and Peyton, Green, Armstead, Tony, Barry, Sam, and Dave. Let's see what that $10,000 looks like. $330,710. That's what that would be worth today. The city just got $330,000 to purchase humans. And then what's also unique about this site is that when you go to the site, if there's any ancillary records, so with this one there are ancillary records that we attach. So you have the deed images here, the first 2. Underneath that you have the minutes of the city council meeting. And you have the advertisement that went in the newspaper. So this is some of the stuff that we did also. Some of our researchers in the office actually looked for other documentation. So whether there was a lawsuit, whether there's like this city council minutes, those records are also a part of this. This was, let me go back up, 1835. No, recording date 1834. So this was 3/20/1834 is when this happened. Let's see. Okay, I don't know what I just did. Well, there you have it. Oh, okay, it looks better. All right, good. So at this point, we're here, we have these documents in the website, and what we're doing next with the Enslaved People Project, or currently and next, we actually are doing seminars, talks, that sort of things at universities, at churches, wherever people want to hear. I'm happy to share. We also had an exhibit at the Tubman Museum where we had the records on display. Then we moved that exhibit to the Douglas Theater here in Macon. Then we moved it to the Canopy Gallery, the Canopy Art Gallery at the mall. So we're looking for another place to display these records. So that's one thing that we're doing now. Those are just pictures of the dream team. And this is just a picture of folks in my office who've contributed to the project because, of course, I can't do this alone. I can't sit there and read 17 million pages of cursive. There's our website, recordhub.cotsystems.com. So again, a lot of people ask, how can you do this work? You know, was there any fallout or any blowback or whatever from doing this project? Were you scared to do this project? And I would repeat what the songwriter said, I ain't never scared. What? No, we're church. I would say God has not given us a spirit of fear, but that of power, love, and a sound mind. And the citizens entrusted me in this position, and therefore I must continue to press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling. And anyone who wants to challenge me on this, the songwriter said, and baby cousin knows it, nook if you buck. Some of y'all know this. Y'all need to go to church on Sunday. So, you know, our ancestors were fearfully and wonderfully made in his image, and today we are standing on their shoulders. As Maya Angelou said in Still I Rise, I am the hope and the dream of the slave, and I rise. So again, the display book is in the atrium. If you'd like to see it. And this is my contact information. You can reach me at the courthouse. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. If you want a special tour, you let me know. My email address is up here. I'm happy to show you. Of course, you can come down at any time, but if you want some one-on-one time, please email or call first. All right? Does anyone have any questions at this time about the project, about the records, anything? Yes, ma'am, it is still an ongoing project because right now we have about 400 of the deeds of the 1,000 on this website because the staff member who's dedicated to this project, she's methodically looking through, you know, each of the records. And again, we had the students and the volunteers to do that first look at the records, but we're also complying with Georgia indexing standards and doing double blind or triple verification. So as soon as she looks at a document, verifies, looks at the cursive, makes sure it says what it's supposed to say, then she'll release that to the website. So today we have about 400 records. Tomorrow or next week we might have 420. So of these records, they're slowly getting pushed. And again, she's doing research at the library and other places and also in our other court records. And she's attaching those. And that's not her full-time job. Her full-time job is real estate clerk, indexing clerk. So, you know, again, this is not my full-time job. It's to do jury duty and, you know, court records and all this other stuff. But we make it happen. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. So the question is, are these records in this website limited to Bibb County? Yes, these are limited only to Bibb County. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Are there any other cities in Macon following my lead to make this happen, to do a project like this? In the state of Georgia, I've spoken with, I know of at least 2 clerks of court. They both have melanin and they're both female, and they are working on a similar project. And there's many layers to this because, for one of the ladies is fearful because of her community. You know, I won't get reelected if I'm doing stuff like this. There's a lot of old money in the city. that sort of thing. So her method is to scan all the documents, which is what I did. I scanned all the documents. That's how I got the money to do this. We needed online access, right, of everything. So, there are two that I know of who are actively starting a project like this. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, going once, going twice. Well, I would just like to say, thank you, sir, I appreciate you. I would just like to say that this is a labor of love. I do enjoy the work that I do. This is probably the highlight, although it can be very depressing to see these records over and over again. However, it's still a joy because we're the only ones doing it, and it's information, it's the truth, and we're sharing it with the community, with the country, with the world. No one else is doing it. In Macon, we're never afraid. I learned that from Dr. Mack. And Nook if you buck. No, wrong. Never mind. So, we're happy to do this project and, continue to serve the people in this way. Yes, sir. Okay. Should these records be in other counties? That's an interesting question. Should they? Yes. These records, if that county was in existence prior to, I was going to say the Emancipation Proclamation, but that was January 1 of 1863. We have records after, let's see, Juneteenth was in 1865. Emancipation Proclamation was signed in January 1 of 1863, and then we had the 13th Amendment that was in 1865, saying that there's no more slavery. But we have records in this book, or in our books, after 1865. So June of 1865, we're still recording deeds where humans are being sold. The last record that I saw was in December of 1865. And Emancipation Proclamation was January 1 of 1863. So should they have the records? If the county was in existence prior to 1865, yes, they should have the record. Now, will they have the record? Maybe, maybe not. If their county, a lot of counties were destroyed by fire, natural disaster, not counties, but their courthouses back in the day, like Twiggs County, I believe it was 1905, that courthouse burned. So the records could have been destroyed by either man-made or natural disaster. But if you're going to your clerk of court's office, and it depends on what your clerk of court looks like, that's going to determine the question that you ask. What I would ask is, hey, can I see your historic records? I just want to see some of your old property books. And then you just flip through and see what you see. Okay? That's my advice. Any other questions? Thank you all so much. I hope I did not put too many of you to sleep. I didn't hear any snoring. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. Mack, for the invitation. And again, the information is in the atrium, the display book, if you'd like to see it, as well as some flyers with the website or the QR code.
Let's give her another hand. Amen. Thank you so very much for taking time out as we get ready for the last part of today.